Okay, so you both mentioned that one of the roles of the Treasurer is to compile the Amal bid for the next year, and something that generally happens and has happened again this year is that there is money that is bid for that will probably not be spent how it's been said that it will be intended to be spent, and it's sort of there for the committee, the incoming committee to decide how they allocate. But on the other side of this means that there's money that's being bid for that isn't necessarily needed, and given that there's a finite Amal fund to distribute between everyone in college, I was wondering what your views are on this sort of practice.
I think there's an understanding by the Amal Club Committee that actually the way that the JCR terms work, that the budget has to be prepared by the previous committee, and therefore some leeway is required by the future committee to spend the money as they see fit and as things come up during the year. In terms of it not being fairly spread out, I think actually it is fairly spread out because the JCR represents all undergraduates as opposed to individual societies which just have a small number. And so I think it is in the JCR's remit to share the money out as it sees fit to benefit the graduates.
And well.
Okay, so I think it's important that the JCR should meet the budget that they've set, because if you spend too much, then the people next year who are coming in will have to pay for that. And if you don't spend enough, then everyone who has already contributed to the JCR won't get to see the benefit from it. I think that so in terms of I think it's important that the JCR doesn't fritter away money, because it is being shared with the MCR as well. It diminishes our position if we spend too much.
Are there any other questions from the floor for the Treasurer? Ben.
Yeah, something which I touched on speaking to Pete raised as well is the relative workload for the Treasurer. So if you had more free time, what would you do with that time?
I'm going to Will on that question first.
Okay, well obviously I've said in my speech that I'd push for constitutional reform. I think it's really important. It really isn't in a good shape as it is at the moment. And I think that any job that you take on, you can make as much of it or as little of it as you want. I think that the accounts, whilst they're fairly comprehensive, could be done in a more sophisticated manner and could use perhaps graphical displays and give them a more regular summary to show people at college what's going on, because I don't think that's been done enough, and it's just done once a year and people don't see it.
Thank you. And
I'm very keen to get involved in the work of the JCR committee more widely, so I think if I did find that I had time that I was able to offer in the way that the Open Portfolio Officer does and other committee members as their roles change throughout the year, I'd be more than happy to use my time for other roles as was required.
thank you. And there's time for one more question. Is one?
You both talked about, obviously, the primary role is like your Amal bid and the budget and all of that kind of thing, but kind of being the financial person on the JCR committee, how much do you see your role as relating to students and student spending and the JCR subscription fee and other things like kitchen fixed charge, and we're going to discuss it later this meeting, but the cost of university cards and things like that. Like, so expenses that college put on students.
Thank you. And it's Alistair first.
Yes, I think that's an interesting area that hasn't actually traditionally been part of the Treasurer's remit, but I think it is potentially somewhere that can be expanded to. And indeed, I think there is quite a lot of negotiation with students required in terms of what the money wants to be spent on and what the attitudes towards JCL spending are amongst college, and it's quite important to have a sense of what that is. So yes, lots of liaison with students.
Okay, so the Treasurer's primary role is as the sort of financial person for the JCR, but within that I think they're expected to have some kind of financial acumen which will enable them to liaise with the other members of the committee, so the services officer for most of the things around college, and perhaps represent them from a financial viewpoint at meetings with college, and make sure that it breaks down any kind of walls of jargon and things of that.
Thank you very much.